What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. Now it is Thursday, June 27th, and hopefully by now, it's been just under 48 hours since the Evander Kane trade happened. So hopefully now a lot of Canucks fans have had a chance to obviously stew over the initial reaction to the trade. They've had a chance to really dissect it and process it, as well as perhaps maybe change their opinion on it. So basically for this video, we're going to be talking about what Evander Kane brings to the Vancouver Canucks. Now, when I say what Evander Kane brings, I know what some fans are probably going to say. He brings a lot of baggage. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But this particular video, we're not going to be talking about that. This video has absolutely nothing to do with his baggage that he brings. And we're basing this video and what he brings to the Canucks on his on-ice performance. What he brings as a player, not as a person or a character. All right? So I just wanted to throw that out there. Let it be known that's what this video is about. We're not going to discuss his off-ice antics or his stuff. This is the last I'm going to say about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there, make it clear. But before we get into, talking about what Evander Kane brings to the Vancouver Canucks, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see behind me. And you guys can check them out yourselves at GassyJackArt.com. Still has his end of season sale going on where you can get 4 prints and 2 of them will be free. You guys can also check them out on Instagram at GassyJackArt. So go ahead and get your prints today. Once again, GassyJackArt.com. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. We're going to be taking a look at a couple articles that go over this and talk about it. First one in particular has a lot to do with that question, what I said earlier. And that's what basically asks the question: what are the Canucks getting in Evander Kane? Obviously brought to us by our friends at Canucks Army. Tyson Cole is the one who wrote this article, and he goes on to say, whether fans like it or not, Evander Kane is going to be sporting a Vancouver Canucks sweater come October. So it's probably time to start looking into the type of player the Canucks are getting in Evander Kane. By watching him closely during his time in Edmonton, we can somewhat paint the picture in our heads. He's a 6'2", 218-pound power forward with a wicked release matched with natural goal-scoring ability. With his large frame, he's an elite net front presence who isn't afraid of getting under the opponent's skin. But why not call in an Oilers expert, Cam Lewis of Oilers Nation, to tell us what Canuck fans are getting from Kane? Now, this quote that is in this article, which, by the way, I will leave a link to in the description down below. We already kind of read about this in our initial video, talking about the trade and, the announcement of the trade. So I'm not going to reread it. But Cam Lewis, tells us, about the, him missing the 2024-2025 season and then coming back in time for the playoffs, him, scoring 6 goals in the playoffs and then him kind of disappearing in the Cup finals. So if you guys want to, actually hear the quote, and you guys can check out that initial Evander Kane video right here. But we're going to move down and we're going to talk about Patrick Allvin meeting with the media, to discuss the trade and, what he's expecting from Kane. And I believe this quote was also in that same video that I mentioned. So you guys can check that out. But we're going to once again skip down and get to the real meat and potatoes. I don't know why I just used that reference, but of this article, and this is where it really tells us what we can expect out of Evander Kane. So Kane plays his best hockey when he can get to his aggressive style of play. When he's engaging physically with his opponents, he makes his best offensive contributions. Don't expect Kane to drive play, but he's not afraid to drive the net and play along the boards to retrieve the puck for his line mates. You can expect multiple trips to the penalty box, but that comes with his ability to stand up for his teammates on the ice. The Canucks lacked that intimidation factor in their lineup last season after losing Zadorov. Sure, Kiefer Sherwood and Dakota Joshua have the same physicality level as Kane, but there really wasn't a true, pest or, agitator on the roster. Diving into some of his stats, he does carry an offensive punch. He scored 20 goals in 8 of his last 9 seasons, eclipsing over 30 goals twice, and that scoring touch has stuck with Kane throughout his career, maintaining a 20-goal pace in all but one of his 14 seasons in the NHL. However, at this point in his career, Kane would need to play with some high-level talent to be able to produce in the goal-scoring department. Does that mean he plays alongside Elias Pettersson, who has proven he can elevate his line mates in the past, or perhaps Filipino, who's confident with the puck and can drive play, allowing Kane to set up shop at the net front? That is the area where Kane finds most of his success. Looking back at his 2023-2024 regular season NHL Edge data, you can see Kane got most of his goals from the high danger area in front of the net. Of his 220 shots that season, 78 came from that area, which works out to be 35.5% of his shots on goal. But when you look at his scoring rate, he scored 13 of his 24 from the high danger area, amounting to 54.2% of his production. While he might not be the distant sniper he once was at the beginning of his career, Kane has still maintained a 20-goal pace in all but one of his 14 seasons, as we mentioned. He has also eclipsed the 20-goal milestone in 8 of his last 9 seasons, as we also just mentioned. Sticking on the NHL Edge, Kane's top skating speed in that season was 22.56 miles per hour, ranking in the 70th percentile. He's by no means a burner, but it was positive seeing him rank in the top half of the league. However, when you look at this past postseason run, Kane's top speed was down to 21.86 miles per hour, ranking in the 59th percentile. To be fair, he was returning from multiple abdominal surgeries and hadn't played hockey in nearly a year. But Kane will be 34 when he makes his Canucks debut. Players don't typically gain speed into their mid-30s. There are certainly some positives that Kane will bring to the Canucks squad, but a lot of the angst among the fans are about his off-ice antics. Throughout his career, there were multiple... Okay, we're not going to go over that. This next little bit talks about his character. We mentioned we weren't going to go over that. But we're going to read a quote from Oilers reporter Bob Stauffer, who joined Donnie and Dolly on Wednesday morning to give Canuck fans some insight on not only Kane, the player, but the person he saw in Edmonton. Evander Kane has an identity. He brings it on the ice. He was heavily invested in the community off the ice, which I don't think everybody realizes out there. And for the naysayers of this transaction, all I would say is there were naysayers when Evander came to Edmonton, and within about 2 months, everybody loved him. So I frankly think he's exactly what the Canucks need. And if we didn't have a salary cap, I don't think the Oilers would have traded him. He's a really smart guy, and he also knows how to sell himself. He did a ton of stuff off the ice, a lot of charity stuff. He was vested in the Indigenous community in Northern Alberta. He'd spent a lot of time helping out disadvantaged children in terms of in the dressing room. It's a family. We're around it a little. To be frank with you, I didn't hear a lot of, complaining about Evander Kane from any other players. What I did hear is that there was appreciation that he could do things that were kind of a lost art in today's facets of the game and how it's played in terms of the gamemanship. I could easily see him contributing and being a very effective player. I get why the Vancouver Canucks took the bet on him. It makes a lot of sense for them. All in all, Canucks are getting a perennial 20-goal scorer, as we've said multiple times now, who brings some snarl and grit to the lineup, someone who isn't afraid to stand up for teammates and get under the skin of his opponent. There's always going to be some negativity surrounding his past, but at the end of the day, Vancouver's added a player who's going to make their on-ice production better and did not have to pay a premium price to do so. So that is the end of that article. Once again, as I said, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. I'm going to take a look at another article that discusses where he fits in the Vancouver Canucks lineup. So we just went over, what the Canucks are getting in Evander Kane. So we're also going to talk about, where he fits in the lineup. The addition of Evander Kane has been met with mixed feelings from Vancouver Canucks fans. The team's newest member may come with controversy, but is a buy low target for the club with top six forward upside, likely being used as a Brock Besser replacement. That being said, where is Kane best suited in the Canucks lineup heading into next season? As of right now, Canucks still have a little over $8.5 million in available cap space, so we can expect some other moves to come before we head into next year. Possibly by the time this video comes out, Canucks may have already made a trade, so we shall see. For right now, though, Kane is either best suited to slot in alongside Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk, or with Filip Chytil and Connor Garland. So he's either going to be on the first or second line, most likely. Kane is a fast power forward who can score, sometimes seemingly at will. He's not someone who will be driving play on his own, as we mentioned, and that's why pairing him alongside Pettersson would be the best spot to set the Vancouver native up for success. We've seen the numbers he's managed to put up alongside the likes of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl over the past few years, especially in the playoffs just a few years ago, where he recorded 13 goals in 15 games. Although Pettersson is not on that level, he's the closest forward the Canucks have to it. Assuming he's ready for a bounce-back season, he could be a great playmaker to set up Kane around the net. DeBrusk and Kane are both more north-south wingers that are hard on the forecheck, and with both being proven goal scorers, this could unlock the high-end level of playmaking from Pettersson that the Canucks sorely missed last season. If Kane doesn't end up working out on a line with Pettersson and DeBrusk, he could also be a good fit alongside Chytil and Garland, as both of these players are play-driving playmakers who can complement Kane's goal-scoring ability. Like DeBrusk, Garland is another player hard on pucks on the forecheck. With Kane's ability to win board battles, the two of them could create a ton of offensive opportunities through the cycle below the circles in the offensive zone. Canucks are likely not going to use Kane as a replacement for Besser in the team's top six, but they'll also need to replace him on the power play. Kane doesn't exactly fit into the flank slot on the power play that Besser took over midway through last season after the departure of JT Miller. However, his size makes him a great candidate to take over the net front position on the Canucks' top unit. In his career, Kane has seen a fair bit of success on the power play, having registered a career high of 14 power play goals with the San Jose Sharks in the shortened 2019-2020 season. With Edmonton, his numbers dipped on the man advantage, but he'll surely have more opportunities in Vancouver to play on the top unit, something he didn't do much of during his time with the Oilers. Kane's ability to slide up and down the lineup and slot in well with multiple players on this Canucks roster does make sense for an on-ice fit. Mix this with the fact that he's put up very solid offensive numbers throughout his career. He was likely one of the only proven top six forward options on the market for the Canucks to buy at a very low cost. And then it goes on to briefly talk about his, red flags and off-ice stuff. We mentioned we weren't going to go over that. And one last article, by the way, I'll leave a link to this particular article in the description down below as well. Last article that we're going to look at is hearing from the man himself, Evander Kane himself. Obviously, he spoke to the media technically yesterday. So we're going to go over a few things that he said. This article, once again, brought to us by our friends at Canucks Army, is written by Jeff Patterson. And he goes on to say, as first impressions go, Evander Kane made a strong one Thursday afternoon at Rogers Arena. Strolling into the media room in a sharp, double-breasted blue and green blazer, the newest member of the Vancouver Canucks said all the right things as he answered questions for 15 minutes about Wednesday's trade that now sees him playing for his hometown team. Without a doubt, Kane has a presence, and it was on full display as he spoke with ease at the podium. He addressed hockey matters and didn't shy away when the subject turned to some of the off-ice transgressions that have followed him throughout his 16 years in the NHL. Now, I just realized I mentioned 48 hours. I guess technically it's been 24 hours, so my apologies for that. I don't know why, but I keep thinking this trade happened on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. I got my days mixed up this week, so once again, apologies for that. Now, when the puck drops for Kane's first game in Canuck colors in October, nothing that he said in his introductory media availability will matter. He will be judged by the way he plays the game and the way he carries himself. But in terms of setting the tone for his time with the Canucks, Kane sounds confident that he can bring the rugged and aggressive style he's displayed throughout his career to his fifth NHL franchise. He goes on to quote Evander Kane. So this is a quote from Evander himself, basically saying, "Yeah, I've played that style ever since I was 8 years old here in Vancouver." He said, pointing to his days of minor hockey in East Vancouver, "Nothing is going to change. Nothing is really changing in how I play or what I bring on the ice. I'm very confident in what I can do, and Vancouver is going to provide me a really good opportunity to do that." Kane will play next season on an expiring contract that will pay him $5.125 million, making him the third highest paid forward on the team right now, behind Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk. He's heard the chatter that the final year of his deal should help to keep him focused and motivated. Goes on to quote Evander once more, "I've heard so many people talk about a contract year when it comes to me, when there are so many other guys in contract years. It's just incredible," he said with a laugh. "I know I bring a lot of attention to a room and to a press conference, especially in the Canadian market, but I think every year I've played in the NHL, I've always wanted to put my best foot forward and work as hard as I possibly could, and I don't think anyone can question that, and this year is going to be no different." Kane, who missed all of last regular season due to injury before playing 21 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs, will turn 34 in August. Quick little note, Evander Kane was born, let me quickly do math, on, August 2nd, 1991. So he was born 8 days before I was. Little not known fact there. Evander Kane is only 8 days older than I am. So, but, where was it? All right. With 930 NHL regular season games and 97 more in the postseason, the veteran winger has been through his share of battles. However, he believes that those 8 months off from September through April allowed his body to heal, and he thinks the lack of wear and tear last season will help him moving forward. Goes on to quote Kane once more, "Being able to get my body right and getting back to 100% was a nice reset for me," he explained. "For me, the time off and getting healthy has kind of allowed me to roll the clock back a little bit, in my opinion, and hopefully that can translate onto the ice." As for those who question the Canucks' wisdom in bringing a mercurial player into the mix after a season plagued by locker room dysfunction, Kane hopes to prove his many doubters wrong with his performance on the ice. He's well aware that many still question his character, but thinks he's shown an ability to repeatedly play through the noise and believes he's stronger now than ever. He goes on. This article goes on to quote Kane one more time, to say character is a word that gets tossed out casually, and it can often be used as a weapon when describing somebody, he said. "I think what real character is somebody shows you who they are when there is scrutiny and adversity and how they handle that. Obviously, there have been some difficult times for myself, but I think I've come out of it better off and better for it. You learn and you grow each and every year, and for me, that's no different." Kane says he's excited to pull on a Canucks jersey. He confirmed he'll wear his familiar number 91 and pointed to the atmosphere for Game 7 between the Canucks and Oilers a year ago as one of the loudest rinks he's ever played in. He was on the opposing side then. He's hoping to win Canucks fans over now that he's been brought into the fold. And if his game nights go as smoothly as his first press conference, then there's reason to believe Evander Kane can help this hockey club. So there's those 3 articles. Obviously, from his media availability, he was clearly very well spoken. I watched a little bit of it. I was actually watching Clay's reaction to it, so that's how I watched the media availability. And yeah, I liked his little quip at the beginning. Him being asked, like, do you want people to, say who they are? And he made a little comment saying, yeah, I don't know any of these people. So I thought that was, a nice little icebreaker for that media availability. But at the end of the day, Evander Kane is a Vancouver Canuck. Whether or not he can help this hockey team remains to be seen. As I've already stated, I'm willing to give him a chance. Obviously, I've also mentioned I was a big fan of his when he played for the Giants. So I have that, in the back of my head. I'll admit, I didn't like him on the Oilers, but that is your typical Canucks fan reaction to that because, hey, we were playing them. It was in the playoffs, and yeah, I didn't like him then, but hey, he's a Vancouver Canuck now, and there's not much we can really do about it. And at the end of the day, it's only a 1-year deal, so there's not a whole lot of risk with this. So I am going to remain optimistic about Evander Kane, and I'll just wait to see what he does on the ice. But I want to know what you guys think. Now that you've heard what Evander Kane brings to the Vancouver Canucks and where he might, fit into the lineup, let me know what you guys think. Has your opinion on him, slightly changed? Have you become like me where you're now optimistic about it, having been able to, let it kind of like sit in and, think about it, not, react to it, have that initial reaction. Let me know in the comments section down below what you guys think. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. Find us on Instagram at The Line Change. Find us on X at Line Change Van. Find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. And feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, once again, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for this video. Once again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And hey, today's the draft. I will do my best to, maybe do a short or two. If any news breaks when it comes to the 15th overall pick, we shall see. But if not, I will for sure do something tomorrow. Do like a little, night 1 draft recap in regards to the Canucks. But as always, I believe in blue. I'm not giving up on this team. And as always, let's go Canucks. And I'll see you guys in the next video.